Support WrestleTalk!
Follow us on Twitter.
One of the more common questions we get asked in the comments section and on Twitter is why Ollie Davis and I don't do NXT or 205 Live reviews the same way we do for Raw and SmackDown. The answer is quite simple really. The shows are shorter with less storyline development and therefore there's not as much to say, but crucially the audiences are so much smaller. We could do a show wrapping up the events of 205 Live and NXT or even Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor, but very few people would actually watch them. And therefore, because of the way YouTube's algorithms work, we wouldn't make any money and it could negatively affect the performance of our other videos. Understandably, the number of requests for NXT review shows is higher around takeovers, but there's barely a mention in the weeks in between. There is a reason for this though. For the sake of argument, let's say Raw and SmackDown both pull in roughly around 3 million viewers a week, but only a third of that audience is dedicated enough to subscribe to the WWE Network, and then an even smaller portion of those fans actually watch NXT and 205 Live, with everyone else presumably only subscribing to get pay-per-views and network specials. NXT is pretty regularly in the top shows watched on the network, but last week it was lower than an episode of Ride Along and repeats of Money in the Bank 2018, and 205 Live struggles to crack the top 10 since it was treated like a joke for most of 2017. NXT often struggles to sell out small house shows and is a huge money loser for WWE, and the 205 Live tour earlier this year was a complete washout. But since 205 Live was taken over by Triple H following Enzo Amore's firing and relinquishing of the Cruiserweight Championship, the show has been much better. It puts all of its focus on wrestling and the wrestlers, and usually has a fantastic main event week in, week out. It's not uncommon for me to wake up on Wednesday morning to have 1 or 2 tweets from viewers telling me to check out a match from 205 Live because it's very good. And there will be a handful of comments on the SmackDown review videos telling me to check out 205 Live instead. Previously it was the Buddy Murphy vs Cedric Alexander match for the Cruiserweight Championship, and this week it was the no DQ bout between Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali. The match was really good, full of crazy high spots and some good in-ring psychology that played off previous matches. The problem was the crowd weren't into it at all. A small portion were, but the majority of the audience reacted to the high spots and not the guys. Earlier in the night, Noam Dar's return got no reaction, and neither did Akira Tozawa or Lio Rush. TJP managed to get a reaction, but only by telling the crowd that their town was smelly. If Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali had that match at Full Sail in front of an NXT or Cruiserweight Classic crowd, or at a takeover show, it would have been talked about as one of the best matches of the whole year. As it stands, it's pretty great, but it's nowhere near some of the other stuff the main roster and NXT have put out in the last 6 months. People often forget how important fan reaction is to the overall quality of a match, because wrestlers can play off it and play up to it. So the question is, why isn't 205 Live taped at Full Sail? Why is it tacked on to the end of SmackDown Live to be in front of an arena of fans who paid to see SmackDown guys and not Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali? The Cruiserweights aren't featured on Raw now, so the casual audience has no idea who any of these guys are. So of course they're not going to react to their matches because they don't have a reason to. Taping the show at Full Sail, however, puts these guys in front of a dedicated fan base. The fan base that subscribes to the WWE Network for more than just ride-along and pay-per-views. Raw and SmackDown cater to a different audience than NXT and 205 Live. Raw and SmackDown pull in the casual audience, hence the 3 million viewers and the big money Fox deal. And NXT, 205 Live, NXT UK and the annual tournaments are designed to bring in the wrestling fans who like Ring of Honor, New Japan, Rev Pro, PWG and other independents. So why would you put 205 Live in front of the casual audience who aren't going to care? The brand is still struggling to brush off the stench of Alicia Fox being the mid-card title. So why not put this great wrestling in front of fans who will appreciate it? Because I'll tell you something, you did it with NXT and look what that turned into. A brand that now puts on 5 big takeover events a year to almost universal critical and fan acclaim. If 205 Live picked up some steam because you allowed it to, you could have another touring brand that runs pay-per-view style events on the network. I do find it truly baffling. Triple H is smart enough to know that NXT and the annual tournaments do well at Full Sail because that's where the dedicated audience is. Look at how that audience reacted to Cedric Alexander compared to how the WrestleMania audience did. So why are they sticking with this frankly stupid notion of a live 1-hour show taped after SmackDown Live in front of an audience of people either not reacting or leaving the building? If you still want to produce a 3-hour live show for the casual SmackDown audience in attendance, just have the Cruiserweights go out first and warm the crowd up. 205 Live is getting better and it is much more watchable than it used to be. I'm still not inclined to watch every episode, but I will check it out from time to time time if I get recommendations to do so. I really do feel though that if it was taped in front of a better crowd, it would feel like an important show. It still has a long way to go before it becomes must-see TV. They have the talent, 205 Live just deserves more. We've got other wrestling-based opinion videos here on WrestleTalk, so click the videos on screen right now for more awesome wrestling content. I have been Luke Owen, and that was wrestling.